It's 2.5 mil. I'm looking at the camera. It's 2.5 million sterling. SAP. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to look at you. I don't like you.
Like, I'll fight him right here in front of me, but then he says I want $2.5 million to box him. How does that make any sense? John's like, if Carl's right here in front of me, I'll fight him, but I'm not going to box him unless it's $2.5 million. Huh? I don't understand that. And also, you had the opportunity.
Mouth like a big idiot and calling me out, saying he wants to fight me. So the opportunity's been put in front of him. I think it was 7 figures. It was well over £1 million with an upside, and he's now said, "Oh, I want £2.5 million." He wants more. Leave me alone. Don't start running around like a pillow, like an idiot, making a show of yourself if you've got no intentions of fighting. Anyway, he's been offered the money. He's tried to almost double the money. Whatever figures he's been offered, he's gone higher, and that's the most obvious way to not get the fight made. You price yourself out. So he's asked for too much money. I've also seen a video of him saying he wants to give 75% of it to charity. If he wants to give 75% of the money to charity, why is he worried about making 2.5 million instead of 1.5 million? Just give it to charity. If you want to fight and you're causing a scene and running your gobshite mouth in public, trying to get attention, then
straight man.
But you're serious about it, though, aren't you?
Serious. Serious. I'm a Christian man in the name of Jesus. I'm as serious as that. Don't bother about fighting me. Pay me 2.5 million, we'll fight next week. As soon as possible.
And then there's Froch, who's been paid to fight. He's used to getting money for knocking guys out. I'm sure if they put enough knocks in front of Cole's Froch, in front of Cole's Froch, then he might rise to it. But he ain't going to rise to it if there's no money on the table, if there's no end goal. If you want to punch up, you can go out in the street and have that any day.
You're pure full of shit. And so John's calling it out. His mouth's too big. He's talking things that you don't want him to say. You know, everybody's saying, come on, let's just ride this wave, don't mess up the apple cart. So when he's talking about his son, his legs are gone, he shouldn't be in it. He's talking as a father, not as a hater.
I love that John is just so confident in himself. He would gas inside of 2 rounds. 2 rounds, but if he even made it 2 rounds with Carl Froch, he would gas probably in the 1st round. He's 60 years old. I'm not saying he couldn't hobble about for 4 rounds or something, but he would be gassed inside of 2. Because the way that John runs...
Yeah.
He'll have a shock, and I don't do steroids.
He'll have a shock. What the fuck does pulling a pony around got to do with boxing? I'm sorry. I'm staying fit. Does he think this... Again, I love it. I want to see training videos of John pulling a pony around, or like pushing a sled with, or pulling a carriage with bale.
Carl Froch just called out John Fury for running scared. And honestly, he's absolutely right. Fury's been talking big for months, but when it's time to actually sign contracts, suddenly he's nowhere to be found.
Carl's a genuine, like, world champion level fighter, and he's actually bigger than you'd think, right, when you meet him. He's a lot younger than John, and his peak was outrageously good, right? And he's kept himself in shape. And even now, I remember having a chat with Eddie Hearn, like, about, like, you know, what fighter you've met is, like, the toughest fighter. And he said to me, like, if I'm ever in a bit of bother, the man I want standing next to me at a pub or whatever.
Here's what's really happening. Fury wants £2.5 million for this fight. £2.5 million for a guy who hasn't fought professionally in decades. That's not negotiating, that's pricing yourself out on purpose.
I think if John Fury stuck it on Carl Froch in his space, I think he would chin him immediately.
Really? Even live on Netflix?
Yes. Because these guys, they don't allow you.
But here's where it gets wild. Froch isn't backing down. He's calling Fury's bluff and exposing exactly what this is: all talk, no action. Fury claims he's serious, but his demands tell a completely different story.
Having a go at the Furies, probably over his time on his channel, maybe, I'm guessing, and John didn't like that and wants to have a fight with him, something like that.
It was something like that. I don't think he was necessarily turning down a fight.
What I do know is that John Fury and Carl Froch on the cobbles will be fun. I think they're both average.
And get this, Fury says he doesn't even need a training camp. Listen to that confidence. But when experts break down what would actually happen in the ring, the picture changes real fast.
Because he called me a fake and a fraud, fake hard man. I will show him how much of a fake hard man.
Duke McKenzie just dropped some truth about Froch's mentality. This isn't a guy who fights for ego. Froch is calculated, experienced, and only commits when the terms make sense. That's champion mindset versus amateur theatrics.
In Thailand training, so he's got to make sure he trains right. No cutting corners at this stage in your life. 37 years old. There's a lot of young lions knocking at the door, watching you. You're in a meal ticket, they're planning for you already. And I think
the physical reality is brutal. John Fury is 60 years old, facing a former world champion who's still in incredible shape. Experts are saying Fury wouldn't last 2 rounds before gassing out completely.
John does. He's very, very, very passionate around his sons when they're fighting, and it gets something out of him. I spoke to him, right, literally face to face, and I said, well, you know, what is upset? He said, I don't want people calling me out because I'll take any man on. Yeah. You know the comments. Yeah.
But wait, it gets worse for Fury. Every boxing insider who's weighed in says the same thing. Froch's technical skill and ring IQ would absolutely destroy Fury's size advantage. Experience beats bravado every single time.
I watched Carl Froch getting knocked down by George Groves. He was gone. Carl Froch has an incredible...
Here's what nobody's talking about, though. Froch has faced killers at the highest level. Ward, Kessler, Groves twice. John Fury's biggest claim to fame is being Tyson's dad and starting fights at press conferences.
The fights that he's had with the great champions, and he's come out of the sport intact. For John Fury to be calling out Carl Froch on his opinion, because Carl Froch is entitled to give his opinion in boxing. If you can't have freedom of speech, what was the point of these men and women dying in the world wars, giving their lives in vain?
What do you think would actually happen if John Fury and Carl Froch, as he is,
Carl Froch could stand there and say to John, I'll give you 2 free shots, John. Hit me with your right hand.
Eddie Hearn put it perfectly. Fury's confidence means nothing against Froch's precision. 1 clean shot from the Cobra, and this whole spectacle is over. Fury's never dealt with that level of technical violence.
He went and tried to approach Carl Froch, screaming all these things at him. You know, the fighting man, you know, John Fury, 100-0 on the hard road, in spite of the fact he's been ironed out in the boxing ring plenty of times, including by non-punchers like Henry Akinwande, and it's all there for the people to see. He was going in on Carl Froch.
The contrast is insane when you really think about it. Froch thrives under pressure, controls distance, and picks his shots with surgical precision. Fury relies on intimidation and size. That works in car parks, not boxing rings.
John Fury, Carl Froch, who wins that one?
Difficult one to call, that, isn't it? You got to go with the Cobra. You got to go with the Cobra, mate.
Really?
The Cobra's dangerous. He's still in shape. 48 years of age.
John's standing over there behind you.
You got to go with John Fury. Yeah, no, it kicked off a little bit. But it wasn't only Carl Froch that he went into either, did he? He actually went into Lennox Lewis as well. He started steaming into Lennox Lewis a little bit, and I go, whoa, who wins that?
Joe Egan called it exactly right. Fury talks about others being frauds, while literally avoiding the one fight that would prove his point. The irony is off the charts. He's doing exactly what he accuses everyone else of doing.
John Fury was doing that and goading Carl Froch. And I know John Fury doesn't like Carl Froch. Carl Froch mentions him, although I haven't really watched much of Carl Froch's videos lately. But Carl Froch, I know, has mentioned John Fury in the past. He's had a go with John Fury. They actually talked about having an actual, was it an exhibition or a boxing type match? And John Fury, the, you know, any man, any time, was saying words to the effect of, oh, I'll fight you, Carl Froch, but the money has to be right. And Carl Froch basically said, all right, well, if we arrange payment, it can...
Even Spencer Oliver, who gives Fury credit for being dangerous, admits Froch's skill set neutralizes everything Fury brings. Raw aggression gets you knocked out against elite technique. It's that simple. So here's the reality check nobody wants to admit. This fight will never happen because Fury knows exactly how it ends. He's built his reputation on being the crazy guy who will fight anyone, but when a real killer steps up, suddenly there's excuses and impossible demands. Froch has exposed the whole game and Fury's running out of ways to save face. What do you think? Is Fury actually scared or just smart enough to avoid getting embarrassed? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button if this breakdown opened your eyes, and subscribe because this drama is far from over.